back. The time is now.
Hey, morning. Happy New Year if you haven't been on before. And welcome to the Eddie Howe press conference. This is the novice running the show again, the novice captain of the ship. So welcome one and all. Do a bit housework first. If you haven't already, can you please subscribe? Hit the like, help us grow. Subscribe if you want to. Become a member if you want to. Get all the extra perks. And if you want to make sure your chat's read, give us a super chat and we'll read it out. Morning, Borky. How are you this morning? Yeah, not bad at all. I hate getting up in the morning, as you know, but needs must when the devil drives. We've got Eddie had his press conference, and Glasner's beaten him to it for Crystal Palace, and the excuses are coming out in advance. It would appear from Mr. Glasner, who says the Palace haven't won in the last 6, of course. And he said, we are a little bit in survival mode. We have to accept that. We have never played a team with less rest than us. This is the new excuse. Less rest than us. Even Fulham had 1 day more. We played on Sunday, they played on Saturday. We're playing Newcastle next Sunday, and we only have 2 days rest. They have 4. And we can see the physical difference. I'm not complaining. Just talking about the reality. Right now, it's not possible to perform at our top level. So, is this the excuses coming out in advance? What do you think, Borky?
It could be survival mode. I mean, it's not an easy place to come to, St James's Park anyway, is it? So he's going to be worried about the game, thinking about whether they're going to be able to win or not. They haven't been in the best of form lately, I don't think, Crystal Palace. So maybe it's just a little bit sort of making the fans think a little bit about. I mean, it is difficult over the Christmas period, and to be honest, we do seem to have got away with it a little bit this time. We seem to have had quite nice gaps between the games, whereas the guys have been playing a lot more tight games together.
Indeed, we have. Welcome along to Tragicos, who I haven't seen before. Good morning. Mick Bingley, who I haven't seen before. Good morning. Steve's in. Chris is like the toxic person in the marriage. Never happy with anything, no matter what they do. Love it. Yeah. We've got some interesting match facts for. You'll have to forgive me. I wasn't expecting doing this, so I haven't got it all exactly lined up yet. Sunday.
Thank you very much for the donation there, Darren.
Oh, cheers, mate. Newcastle have lost just one of the last 8 Premier League games against Palace, going down 2-0 in 24. Palace have failed to score in any of their last 4 Premier League away games against Newcastle, losing the last 2 by an aggregate score of 9-0. That was a 5-0 and a 4-0, of course. Newcastle have kept a clean sheet in their last 4 Premier League home games against Palace, only keeping 5 in a row. It's one of those historical facts that takes them beating. It's 1994, 30 years since we last went 5 home games in a row, keeping a clean sheet. against the same club. That was Coventry back in 1994-98. Newcastle have won their last 2 Premier League home games against Palace by 4-0 and 5-0, I've just said. The last scored 4+ in 3 consecutive home games against league opponents against Luton in 1947. So it's a long time since we don't expect 4 goals is what I'm saying on Sunday. Newcastle have kept a clean sheet, not done that one. Newcastle won 2-1 at Spurs in their first league game of 2025. They have not won their opening league match in consecutive calendar years since 2011-2012. That's not too far. Newcastle won 3-1 at Burnley last time out, but only once this season have they managed to win consecutive Premier League games, when we beat Man City and Everton. Palace lost 4-1 in their last Premier League away game at Leeds. That was Leeds beat them 4-1. That was a good game. That Shipman just 1 goal fewer in that defeat than they had in their first away league games. So the form appears to have dropped off a cliff. Johan Wissa's been involved in 8 goals in his last 8 Premier League starts. 2 goals, 2 assists. Obviously just one of them for us, but did the business. Brought home the bacon. 6 goals in 18 appearances is already Bruno Gamara's second best goal scoring season for Newcastle, and we're not halfway through yet, because you got 7 in 23-24. Crystal Palace striker Eddie Nketiah has scored just once in his last 40, doing a bit of an Anthony Gordon. Last 40 away appearances. Netting at Fulham last month. Meanwhile, Nketiah hasn't scored north of London. There's an interesting one. He's never scored north of London in the Premier League since his first ever goal in 2019. So there's some interesting, quirky facts, if you like, how we're doing. I just need to keep a check on what's going on in...
You're getting pulled up here, Win. What do you mean you've never seen me before? I spoke to you a few times on the phone, Jody, in St Andrews mixes.
Oh, right. Well, you see, I didn't know it was Mick and St Andrews. Yes, buddy. The whole Prem seems a bit topsy-turvy, but indeed it does. And this has been my point from day one. You know, you look at Newcastle, 5 points from top 5 and virtually 5 points from relegation as well. It's extremely congested. It just shows, and I don't think it's that the standard of football in the Prem is dropping. I think on the contrary, just everybody is getting better. The money is there now for all teams to go out and spend whatever they want to spend, really, to improve the squad by comparison with what they were able to spend 10, 15, 20 years ago. So the gap between the top 6 and the rest is reducing considerably. Just 2 seconds. Have you got anything you'd like to say, Gorky, about the...
One thing I did look up when over the Christmas period, not doing the presser really, but in regards to goals in the calendar year of 25, could you have a guess at who scored the most goals for us? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious the first one, but so in the calendar year of 25.
Harvey Barnes?
No. Give you clues, not here anymore.
I thought you said apart from him.
No, I says no, including him. Sorry, I've bad.
Oh well, so Rat, obviously.
Yeah. Next, well, but this was the interesting one I found was Do you know who the next top scorer was? You said Bonds. It wasn't
Yeah.
him. It wasn't Bonds. It was Gordon.
Um, with so few. That's it.
Well, that was a question I was going to ask. How many do you think there was a difference between Isaac and Gordon? So Gordon was second top scorer. This is the calendar year, remember?
Yeah, yeah. I would think that's got to be probably 10 or 12 difference.
1 goal.
Eh?
Isaac
How many?
scored 30.
How many?
This,
How
this,
many?
this, isn't, this isn't Premier League. This is across all competitions.
Yeah.
Isaac scored 13 goals. Gordon scored 12. And then the person who actually scored the most goals, not including penalties, so Isaac out the picture, was Barnes. So Barnes scored 11. Just a quick rundown. Bruno scored 10. Voldemort scored 9. Murphy 8. Miley 5. Sula 5. And that's sort of the top scorers. Just found it interesting because obviously it's not comparable because Gordon was here for the full time, whereas Isaac had left. But I would have thought Isaac was a lot further out than that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But it actually also shows that Anthony Gordon's not the dogs that a lot of people are saying he is in the
And
calendar
then
year.
it also in regards to the striker situation, because you can compare them. Last year, the two main strikers were had Isaac and Wilson scored 14 goals. This year, Baltimore and
Was that?
Whistler have scored 11 goals. So we haven't actually lost a lot of goals from the team from Isaac going.
Well, but what I said, if you remember, the window was, we've replaced Isaac and Wilson with Voldemort and Whistler. Unfortunately, we haven't had them available, for most of the season.
I mean,
And
based on them stats,
I was saying consistently that we would be a different team once Whistler came back, which
based on them stats, you would think that if Whistler had been fit, would have had more goals from with strikers this season than we did last season.
exactly, yeah, that's the point. And it shouldn't be underestimated, the fact that when you're playing with Anthony Gordon up top, uh, a blind man on a galloping horse can see it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So hopefully much better to come.
Yet he's the second top scorer in the calendar years. That's true. Fact.
Weird.
What question would you like to hear asked the day win? Be your dream question.
If I was asking the question, it would be why do you refuse to play Walter Morda and Whistler together? At any point, it would appear. Even when you're crying out for goals, and even when we know they're both kind of in form, why is it impossible to play them both together? Now, he has been asked that in the past, of course, and said it's not something we discount. Well, okay, I would say, well, you say that, but when have you actually done it? And why not give it a try? Bear in mind the results that we've had this season. The ex is saying, can you explain Tenali's drop off in form?
He's had a baby.
Well, that's the thing. Somebody was saying yesterday, Alanga's had a baby as well, but I haven't seen that anywhere else other than in comments here.
I've heard it, but I've never actually seen anything.
I haven't seen anything in print or heard anything from a official news source or whatever to that effect.
I think the question I would like to hear is asking about why the changes that are getting made in game aren't changing the match as such, aren't having an effect on the match, or if anything, having a negative effect.
Yeah, why go like for like? Why not try and change? Yep. Interesting. But what was that here? Connor saying, imagine winning the Premier League. The team would still be on holiday. They stopped playing after the Carabao Cup.
We'd get relegated the next season like Leicester.
We need someone to ask about Botman's fitness. Yes, our Rolls Royce, who was always in the garage.
Do you think Botman's another Woodgate win?
I do.
I
I
do
mean,
as well now.
it's not just what I think. It's the facts are there, aren't
Facts
they?
prove it.
You know, I think if I was offered money now for any they reckon Liverpool are sniffing around them, you know, take their pants down again.
The problem is I'm beginning to feel that a little bit about the two fullbacks as well, the two younger fullbacks we've got. Yeah, they're brilliant fullbacks,
Yeah.
but they do seem to have a problem where they can't play a string of games without getting injured.
Although to be fair, Lewis Hall, you know, they keep on saying he's carrying this knock and he's still putting in almost man of the match
Stellar
performances
performances. Yeah.
every game. So you can't really knock him for that. Just see how we're going. Any closer yet?
I think I can answer that one, Michael. Why play Harvey Barnes out of position? Simply down to the fact he wants to get Gordon into the team, firstly. And secondly, Gordon refuses to play out of position, so it's kind of a
I don't think
decision that's being made.
I don't think we've ever heard it said that he's refused to play, and I don't think that would be allowed. End of story. Regardless of any favouritism or whatever, I do not think Eddie Howe would allow any player to refuse to play in a certain position.
It's happened in the past. Not with Eddie Howe, but it's happened with managers in the past, hasn't it?
Yeah, what I'm saying
That
is,
part of the problem with Robson, wasn't it, when Kieran Dyer refused?
yeah, and well, he did, but he didn't allow that. That was what the fallout was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. The kind of phrase, give Eddie a chance, he's building up Wisser to be able to play 90 minutes first. That's what I've kind of argued, that especially with not having a third striker available, if you put them both on together and one of them does happen to get crocked, you're in, without a paddle. The argument is, do you pick teams thinking, oh, but what if he gets injured? Because if you did that, you'd just be wasting your time.
Just a quick one, Win. Do you know what Aston Villa see in Asula that we don't? Because obviously our other teams are seeing him, because there's a few teams seem to be sniffing around him.
Asula.
What do they see that we don't? Yeah.
Well, you've watched him yourself. What do you see?
I see there's potentially, I don't think he's ever going to be a Premier League player, like Premier League top class player. But I think there is potentially. He's a hard one, because I don't know if his actual position is up front, or if it's on the wing, or I don't know if we should have maybe tried him in the youth, like the under-21 setup, playing different positions, just to see where he actually is best at playing.
Well, the thing is, on paper, we are overflowing with wingers.
Yeah.
Not that any of them are performing right now, but, he was bought as a striker, even though he'd only scored one goal in whatever. And, I can see potential there. He's got that kind of energy about him. But do I think he'll make the grade? No, I don't. So if anybody else does, I say good luck to them, But again, we'll argue about this, but I think Eddie Howe is one of the best at developing players and bringing out the best in them all. And he's had a good length of time now trying with Asula. It would appear to no great avail, although these injuries haven't helped, of course.
You just have to look at a Sula, a Langer, and Ramsey for them facts.
Well, you know, again, you know, you had Ramsey's injury. You don't know whether he's still suffering with that at all. What's DB saying? Why did Eddie persist with Gordon up front but not try Harvey Barnes when he's our best finisher? I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
I couldn't understand that one.
And
The school has scored a few goals and not played many games. I think that's a
yeah,
fact. Sula has
he,
scored 5 goals in the last calendar year again.
yeah, and, but that was predominantly against you know, lower league teams
Opposition.
in the cup against
But,
kind of Croydon
again, I
and
suppose you could argue the fact that you can only score against the teams
yeah,
you play
you can
against.
only score against what you're up against. That's
Yeah.
absolutely true. Yeah. Is he in the building yet? Yes, he's in the building. So we'll be.
I think what we should start doing for the press conferences is having a word bingo game or a phrase bingo game. You know,
What's he going to say?
What's he going to say?
Yeah, we'll set that up for the next one.
I think we've been playing well.
Yeah, I think we've been playing well. We haven't been. The passing's not all that we would like it to be. And so on and so forth. Yeah, indeed, Rooney.
Interesting to see if they ask him about injuries as well today.
Well, that's invariably the first question, isn't it?
Yeah. Where is Bob? Do you think when at the start of the press conference as well, we should just have a few set questions so the journalists get a chance to actually ask more pertinent questions? So you always, as you say, you're always going to ask about injuries. You're always going to ask about, you know, how is everybody sort of thing. Just have them as set answers and then get on to the actual questions from the journals.
Just panicking here because we've got nothing coming through. And he's started. I don't see we're going to have problems with this feed again. Sorry about this, folks. The feed from the club is not coming through, and yet he's in the building and talking as we speak. In talking on Hall's fitness trips. But we ain't there yet.
I don't think anyone know how far away Elanga is. Rugby, we're just waiting to hear from him. I really don't think he would be holding the lad back simply down to the fact that we haven't sort of put so many youngsters on the pitch. So I think he would want him in the team. It's just obviously making sure he is fully fit. There is questions to be asked with him because in regards to that, he has in the past brought players in quite quickly from injury, but with the Sula, he seems to be taking his time. So whether there is something in the rumours around him wanting to be away and, you know, sort of us looking at
But
transfer.
those rumours wouldn't surprise me at all. Because, you know, when he's been there that long, when, you know, we've been desperate for a striker and he's playing Anthony Gordon up front instead of giving him a go, you can understand his frustration, absolutely.
But the thing is, I think the other side you've got to look at it is we're looking to get maybe 30 million for him. Who are you going to get in for 30 million to replace the lad who's at the same level? I think
Nick Calvert-Lewin.
I think you're taking a chance either way because you're taking a chance either keeping him and trying to develop him or bringing somebody new in but who hasn't got the experience. So it's a double-edged sword discussing that.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to preempt what Eddie's been saying, because it looks as though this feed isn't coming through. Oh, here we go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, gents. Ladies.
Morning.
Okay.
Happy New Year, Martin. Hi, David. Happy New Year.
All the best. Morning, everyone. We'll start with the unpopular update. We're shortening the time of presses. We have 15 games in 50 days coming up, so while the minutes will come down, obviously the cadence of presses, access to mix-ups, etc., in line with fixtures has increased, so hopefully that gets a little bit of your understanding. We'll start with Razor. It'll be 3 questions first for broadcasters and then a single questions for written guys. If there's a compelling reason you have to ask another one, then you're welcome to do that. But if you can try and keep it to single questions, that would be great. And we will also put an embargoed section in for Sundays as well on the back of this. Start with Razor.
Good morning, Eddie. Could we just have an update on Lewis Hall, please, who received treatment at Burnley? Is he okay, and do you expect him to be available for Crystal Palace?
Yeah, he should be okay. We'll have a closer look at him today, but I don't see it being a big problem.
You would normally expect this time of year to be perhaps the busiest, given the number of games you normally have over the festive period, but you've actually had some fairly decent time off between matches or days without playing, which is, I guess, unlike what you'd had in the months previously. How have you worked that, and do you feel that's been a good thing, having 4 days and 5 days between games?
Yeah, as you say, slightly different. Rare for us this season that we've had the 4 to 5 day lead into games. Positive for us because we're nursing players back from injury, so the more days we get, the more chance we get to get some important players back. I expect us to be in good physical condition for the games to come, but certainly there's going to be no rest during January. This is going to be a season-defining month for us with very minimal rest between games.
9 matches in January, but given that you've been away twice between Christmas and New Year, do you see it as a good thing that your next 4 and 6 of the next 7 are at home? Because apart from anything else, you're not having to travel away as much as you have been and then as you will be at the end of the month and then into February.
Yeah, I think any home game for us is a positive. We love playing at home. Goes without saying, we've been really good at home for a long time, so we prefer to play there other than anywhere else. I think the travelling, especially during a hectic game schedule, the more you can minimise that, then that's beneficial for us. But as I say, January will be a season-defining month for us. And you look at the month of our whole, I think some great games for us, some really mouth-watering occasions. But we've got some tough challenges ahead, and certainly the start to the month needs to be a fruitful one for us.
Thank you. Keith.
Eddie, you say they're a season-defining month, even going into February. When you look at the schedule, I think it's 12 in the next 37 days. I'm guessing there won't be a lot of time to train in that time. How do you go about managing that on a day-to-day basis?
Well, there hasn't been a lot of time to train all season for us, really. I mean, the training days that we've had where we've had sort of a full squad to work from, like 1 or 2 training sessions, it's not been big exposure for the players in that sense. And we've got used to that rhythm. You get used to whatever you end up doing, and we've been training with smaller groups. We've been trying to cram as much as we can into some of the players that aren't playing. So I don't see it being a huge issue for us. I think my preference is always to try and train and prepare a number of days into games, but we'll make the best of the situation.
You've been obviously light at the back over the festive period with a number of defenders out. Is there any hope over the next couple of games of having the likes of Livramento, Trippier, Kraft or Botman back?
Kraft, no, he's further back. The others, yes.
Are you able to say when? Is it a potential for this weekend, or does that come too soon? Yeah,
we've got a couple of training days, but yeah, Tino and Kieran have worked really well. They've had proper recovery periods, so they're both close.
And that'll be a real boost for you, I guess, in that position, given how light you've been.
Huge. I mean, Louis Miley, I've said time and again how well he's done in a position that he's not played before. Again, against Burnley, I thought he was magnificent for us. But we'd love to get our fullbacks back fit and available. boost the squad really in terms of numbers. We've been very thin on the ground for defenders, so that would be a big area.
Thanks, Keith. Andy?
Morning, Eddie. You call it a season-defining month ahead in January. How strong a foundation do you feel Newcastle have leading into that month, looking at all of the competitions? 4 points off 5 in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup, going well in the Champions League as well.
Yeah, we're in there, fighting and scrapping for every point that we can in the Premier League. It's been a difficult season so far. It's not been plain sailing for us, but the points gap is minimal. If we can put a run together, it's a big if. It's that magic word, consistency, being able to back up results, which probably been our failing this season. So that's what we're looking to do. And if we can, things can change quickly and the perspective can be very different. We haven't been able to do it yet, but this is the moment. And we're running out of opportunities because beyond this, I don't think we'll get another chance. So I think our focus is there, and the performance levels have been pretty good for a while. But yeah, as you say, and I said, this is a season-defining month for us, and we're going to be challenged off various fronts. So exciting times ahead, I think.
You talk about Lewis Hall there. How important is it to keep him fit now? Because he has had his injury problems in the past, but every time recently he's appeared on the pitch, he looks like he's producing excellent performance after excellent performance. Yeah,
he's an important player for us. Every defender we have fit and available at the moment is an important player because we only have 4, and I'm including Louis Miley in that 4. I'm talking established Premier League players. So Lewis is, it's technically excellent. He's an attacking front foot defender. I think he's only going to get better the more games that he plays, fitness-wise, and getting his very best form back. But he's a real talent, and we need to try and keep him on the pitch.
Just finally, football's obviously a sport played in the spotlight a lot of the time. Just reflecting back on 2025, what moment kind of sticks out in your mind that perhaps hasn't been out there in the spotlight here at Newcastle United?
Regarding us? Yeah. You've laid that one on me, Andy. I've got no idea. There's so many moments and there's so many things that happen in a year of football. Obviously, the obvious ones that everyone knows about stick in my mind and will always be there in memories of the cup final and everything around the parade, and those few days were unbelievable. And that sort of dominates my thoughts when you ask me a question like that. So as soon as you say that's not in the spotlight, it's thrown me. So I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
I'll ask you again next week.
Yeah, I'll text you later.
Anisha?
Morning, Eddie. Can you just talk to us a bit about Palace and the challenge that they'll pose for you? They're in a more difficult moment in the Premier League, certainly with their results, but a manager that's incredibly highly regarded. How difficult do you think this game will be?
Yeah, it'll be a difficult game. Their away form's very good. Very good defensive team. Solid, tough to score against. And they've got good attackers the other way as well. I think it goes without saying how good a job I think Oliver's done. Watched them closely in the preparation for this game, and yes, they've lost a few key players for different reasons, whether it be injury or African Cup of Nations, but they're still a very good team, and a team that we can't underestimate and we won't underestimate. We don't underestimate any opponent, and a game that we can do well in if we're at our best levels, and we're boosted by the fact we're back at home after it feels like a long time away. But it's a game that we need to prepare well for.
And all these home games and what you say is a season-defining month, it's a gift really that that you've got them. Is it a case that you have to take advantage, and get this season, get that consistency that you want?
Yeah, we look at playing at home as a privilege. There's a great environment. The supporters always create that environment for the players to relax and to express themselves in a really positive way. I think if we can do that and we can get a really good feeling about our objectives and what we're looking to do, then hopefully we'll perform. And I think we've been pretty consistent in terms of our performance levels, as I've said in recent weeks. I've been happy. We've still got a lot of growth and a lot of improvement there, I think, that we can deliver. And especially if we can get some players back, as we spoke about earlier, then I think the squad will be in a much better position.
Thank you.
Thank you. Britons. We've got to Damien, then to Dominic.
Morning, Eddie. We seem to spend much of the last 4 years talking about PSR. As we go into a new transfer window, do you have the ability to make a marquee signing if you choose to?
Yeah, we have spent a lot of time talking about PSR. It's nice actually to have gone a few weeks without talking about PSR, but I suppose we're back at that time of year again. Marquee signing, I don't know quite what that means. I suppose you're talking big financial outlay. I don't think that's the desire in this month for various reasons, because I don't think it's a great month necessarily to make that kind of signing. Any signing that we do make in this window will restrict our ability to do business in the summer. So I think we've got to be really careful that we make the right decisions for the here and now and for the future. We're still on that position where PSR will influence every decision that we make. So that's why we have to be really smart. So I don't think that's necessarily the wish in this month. But I think our injury situation to a degree will impact what we do and don't do.
Dominic.
Morning, Eddie. Previously, you spoke quite openly about Willis Soulan, how close he came to leaving the club in the summer. The interest in him is well documented. Do you expect him to leave the club this month?
No, there's no expectation of me thinking Will leave. I think the only way that we would consider that would be for his development and growth in terms of, benefiting his career to play. But always with a view to him coming back to us. So he's injured at the moment. I think the main priority for Will is just to focus on getting fit. I don't think he's close, but I think he's improving. So hopefully we'll see him towards the end of the month. Be big for us to get him back fit, and it'll be big for him because I know he's been hugely frustrated by this injury when he had a lot of opportunities to play. And prior to his injury, I thought he was in a really good place and doing well. So as with every player, we'll make a decision when we need to.
Okay, we'll go to Lee, Craig and Luke, please.
Morning, Eddie. Obviously, one of our jobs is to ask what the fans are talking about, and one of the recurring themes has been about what they perceive as a lack of a plan B. I think it's referring to substitutions. What would you say to any fan who said there's no plan B at the minute, especially that hour at Burnley where they were just, it was an onslaught at Turf Moor?
An onslaught on?
At Turf Moor.
Well, against us?
When it was 2-0, after that, Burnley were just on top for nearly an hour.
Have you seen the stats of the game?
Well, I'm just saying what I saw with my own eyes.
Yeah, but you must have been watching a different game then. So there was no onslaught. Yes, we had moments, of course. We had moments the other way. I mean, I would never describe it as that. And I always try to be, if it was an onslaught, I'd give you my opinion and say, yeah, I thought it was. But a plan B, that's always a difficult one. Because if you have too many plan Bs, that means your plan A is flawed, and your players are then thinking of what's next rather than trying to deliver the plan A to the best of their ability. So we have loads of different ways of playing, but within the structure and the principles of what we believe in. So I see countless managers ask the same questions on plan Bs, and as I say, you have to be careful. So we have a very strong plan for every situation. We just need to deliver it better. That's sort of where I am, and the focus is towards the players on trying to improve our performances all the time.
Craig?
Just ask quickly, Eddie, before I ask a question, two names that weren't mentioned there, Elanga and Botman, are they available or where are they at?
They're close, Craig, yeah. They're both very close. Sven's been training with the group, which has been great. So envisage that he will be in and around this game. Anthony hasn't trained with us yet, but is very close to doing so.
And just on transfers as well, I know Damien touched on it there, but what do you want to do if you strip away everything else? What would you like to do? What do you think you and your team squad need this month? I think, without evading the question, it's about where our squad is at in terms of injuries. So if everyone's fit and available, I think we've got a really well-balanced squad. And I think it'll be difficult then in January to improve that squad. If we don't and we lose players, especially defensively, with the game schedule they have in January, then that leaves a totally different opinion. So
I think it's based on that.
Luke?
Just picking up what Lee said there, do you think you talk about a lack of consistency being a problem this season? Are you worried about your ability to control games, particularly away from home, and does that stem from particularly from problems in midfield?
Yeah, I don't think we've had the control that we would have liked in some games. And sometimes we've self-inflicted some problems on ourselves. And going back to Burnley, there was a period of, say, 10, 15 minutes where we were turning the ball over a little bit too much, and that gave them confidence and belief to come back into the game when it looked like we were going to take full control. And that's frustrating from our perspective, having got a 2-goal lead after 10 minutes. You expected us, or I expected us, to go on and really consolidate in that moment. So, yeah, I think that there's areas there to look at and to focus on, and we have our themes and areas that we're focusing on and trying to implement at the moment that will make us stronger and better. But I've watched loads of games of Burnley's this year, and they've been very competitive at home. They've been in almost every game. So while we didn't win as strongly as I maybe wanted us to, we did win, and it was a good performance.
Sorry, just grab. Well, sorry, Lee, this is already breaking rules. And I saw a stat yesterday which surprised me a little, but apparently in last year, 2025, you won 29 games, which is the most in a calendar year since 1995. That would suggest that actually things aren't nearly as bad as sometimes the outside noise can make out.
It's nice to hear a positive stat, Luke, so thank you for that. I had no idea that was the case. So certainly 2025 overall, I think, was a really good year for us. It didn't end with us in our best moment, and obviously the mood and the feeling is always attached to that, and I understand that, but sometimes to look back is a good thing.
Thanks, Luke. Chris and then Martin.
Sorry, Eddie, I'm going to follow up with a negative stat, so I apologise.
Cheers, Chris.
But it's 12 Premier League games without a clean sheet, and I think it's 12 games in all competitions. Obviously, you started so strongly defensively with a lot of clean sheets early in the season. You've had defensive injuries. How frustrating has that been, and how much do you think that is holding you back, the fact that you're struggling to keep clean sheets?
Yeah, strange one, because I'm going to come back with another stat. Our stats are XG. I know everyone can have different opinions on XG. We're the second best team in the Premier League for defensive performance, and that makes that stat that you give me frustrating, because we shouldn't have conceded some of the goals that we have. I think our defensive record in terms of goals conceded should be better. Yeah, it's a surprising return, that, because I think there's been games where I've walked off and gone, well, we should have kept a clean sheet. There's no way we should have conceded today. But concentration levels, details, individual moments, we've got to be better at. We pride ourselves on being organised and trying to be really tough to score against. But we've got to improve that return, and hopefully in the new year we can.
Okay, Martin.
Hi, Eddie. 15 games in 50 days, 12 and 37. Are we at a breaking point with these amounts and what's been asked of players at the minute?
Yeah, that's a deeper conversation. I don't know. The players want to play. The only thing for me is whenever the players enter the pitch, I want them to be able to physically produce their very best. Sometimes with the really quick turnarounds, I think our turnaround that we had leading into Chelsea was that was far too tight, I thought, for the players to give. Although we did actually give a really good physical performance, especially for the first half in that game. But that was a big ask. So I think that's the big thing for me. I think the number of games isn't going to go away, but just the turnaround times, I think, have got to be thought about.
Okay. Jordan?
Just linking back to Luke's question about the midfield, would you agree that Sandro Tonali hasn't been at his best in recent months, given the standard he had set over the last 12 months?
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. I think the standards that he set last season in particular, I thought he was absolutely magnificent. And him returning to the team gave us almost like a new signing, a new energy boost in there. He built really good relationships with the players around him, and I think he was really, really effective in lots of different dimensions of the game. I think this season, for whatever reason, I don't think he's quite hit those levels that he did the season before. We're working with him to get him back to those levels. And I think we've seen games where he's performed really well. And even within games, there's been moments and periods of the game where he's been absolutely at his best. But it's that consistency level for him, as it is for the team, that will be the thing we're focused on.
Okay, Sean, to finish this section, please.
Morning, Eddie. Obviously, Nick Poole came back in against Burnley, and I thought he made a real difference in the second half. A few big saves when it was, pressure was building. You said Kieran Trippier's close to coming back, and what's a season-defining month, as you just said before. How important is their leadership going to be in what's such a grueling January across all 4 competitions and some huge games?
Yeah, I think the leadership aspect is one that probably gets ignored in terms of when those players are missing, what we miss. So when you look at Dan Burn, Sven, Kieran, I'm going to miss someone out here, I know I am. But regardless of sort of the individual names, there's a lot of experience that's been absent. And I think you feel that internally because the group's been a bit quieter, it's a bit more youthful. And I think you've seen sort of the impact in that in some of the games when we've lost control or we've lost a late goal, or sometimes you put it down, so if it's a set play, down to organisation, leadership, voice, all those things play a big part. So the players coming back into the team, their experience and everything that they bring will give us a massive lift. So we're excited to get those players back.
Thanks, Sean. Concludes this part of the press conference. We'll hold a few minutes for some.
There we have it. Mr. Edward Howe. What did you think of that, Bogey? A couple of your questions got asked.
He didn't like them, though, did he? Didn't like them one little bit. He doesn't like them up them. In regards to that, the one thing I can say is the big point I took out of that was the Burnley game. When the question got asked about his in-game management, and he says, what pressure? What pressure, I wonder? I think it's him that needs to watch the game back, not us.
Well,
I know you'll go through all the points of the press conference, but that was the big standout one to me, was that when he gets asked the telling questions, he didn't have the standard reply that he can give. He sort of went off script
to
a little
me,
bit. And
that was Lee Rayner. Yeah, but he began the question specifically by saying fans, i.e. online fans, and that was when Lee Rayner used the word onslaught. I think Lee Rayner was referring to the onslaught of fans' opinions about there not being a plan B. And Eddie took that as meaning that Burnley put us under an onslaught, and said if you look at the stats of the game, they never did.
I think if you watch the game, is the other way around. If you watch that, I mean, we sat and watched the game together, mate. The Burnley did put under pressure for a hell of a lot of that second half.
Well, not for a hell of a lot. For fifth, if you look at the pressure map, there was only 15 minutes when that their chart above the line was going berserk.
But we were wobbling. I think you've got to put it in reflection.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. But the point I'm making is that Lee Rayner's point was about the onslaught of fans' opinions that we didn't have a plan B, and that substitutions were like for like, not changing anything. And his answer to that was quite telling, I thought. He says, if you have to resort to a plan B, that means that your plan A isn't working. And his, if you like, attention is more directed at getting that plan A to work and have the players working to get the plan A to work, rather than change to a plan B, which automatically means that your plan A is failing.
But then surely enough, any good manager has a plan B. He's basically saying, if my plan A doesn't work, we're knackered.
Well, in a way, that's exactly what he's saying.
Yeah.
But he's saying we just concentrate more on executing plan A better rather than rip that up and have everybody trying new stuff for plan B. Now, if you ask me if I agree with that, I don't necessarily. But it tells you a little bit, if not a lot, about his own mindset.
Yeah.
In terms of, which regularly levelled against him, which is that he's stubborn.
I think we all know he's stubborn as a mule. So, I mean, we're never going to change that. So if he stays, we know this is going to be the case of how it's going to progress. He's got his ideas and he'll stick to them. But as you say, I think you always have to have a plan B. You've always got to be planning in case. I think what he's saying, if you'd related that to the Burnley game, if you relate that to the Man United game, if we tried a plan B with two strikers up front or something like that, could we have got back in that game? Man United were there for the taking, I think we could have. But do you want to get back to the presser? Do you want to go through your points on the presser?
Well, no, but with regard to what you're saying there about the Man United game, I mean, again, it was as in fact he brought up later on in the press conference when asked about the defensive deficiencies in terms of 12 games now without a clean sheet. He said, yeah, but he says, if you look, you're using those stats. If you look at the XG, we're second top in the Prem for XG. And that's the problem, that we're not finishing our dinners. And that was never more the case than Man United. We were absolutely battering them, but just couldn't make that breakthrough.
But is that not the case of, or again, keep on this point, but is that not again the case of why you should have a plan B, so that if the tried and tested isn't working, you've got something different to try?
Well, except that Eddie would argue, by virtue of his answer to that question, was that, well, no, you've just got to, because it was working in terms of applying pressure and pressure and pressure. So the plan A was working, but it just wasn't being executed properly. So he's saying concentrate on executing it properly. Don't lose possession in key areas, etc., etc., etc. Don't make individual mistakes. Get the job done.
But it's a bit like saying, if you're trying to knock yourself out, keep banging your head against the same door, and eventually it'll happen. And if it does, but sometimes it doesn't. You just end up with a sore head, which I think is what happened at the Man United game, basically, wasn't it?
Well, anyway, to go back to the start, Lewis Hall, he said, is definitely going to be okay for Palace. Tino and Trips are very, very close to coming back. Elanga and Botman, close to coming back. And he was on about it being a season-defining period and having the 6 of the 7 games at home is going to be a real benefit to the club, which I think goes without saying, given the difference between our home form and away form. And he was asked that obviously with having that many games, you have less time between games. Was he finding that a problem? And an interesting thing that he said there was, for me, that they are now training in smaller groups. So with having less time between games, the training they're doing is with smaller groups as opposed to the whole group. That would have been a group ticked off on the bingo.
On the trophy, yeah.
He says, with the defensive injuries we've got at the minute, Miley's done great, magnificent, in fact, he said, against Burnley. But you can't replace the experience of the likes of Burns and Trips in terms of game on the pitch management when you're under the cosh or whatever. But very, very thin defensive options we've got at the minute, and hopefully that's going to change in the very near future. it's been a difficult season, he said, and in particular, just lack of consistency. But this is a season-defining period coming up, which I think we'll all agree with. And it hasn't happened yet, but it's got to start happening now. He was asked how important particularly Lewis Hall was, and he said very important that with his attacking prowess, it means everything for the team. Willis Sula, again, was asked, in referencing what you were saying earlier on, about why are other clubs looking at him, and we are apparently not happy with his ability to come into the first team. But he said, yeah, they will be looking, if it's to benefit the Sulas, get him more game time and benefit his game all round, it's certainly something to look at. But always, interestingly, always with the objective of him coming back. So that would suggest that he hasn't completely given up on Asula as a striker. Did you find that at all
I thought that was very much saying if he's back fit and we can get somebody in who can cover that space, he'll go out on loan. It didn't sound like they want to sell him. It sounded like if he needs game time because he's not going to get into the team here, we'll send him out on loan.
Develop his game.
Yeah, a couple of other things I picked up with if that was that he said no big signings in January potentially, because January's not a good month to make signings. Is that maybe something Eddie's been told? Because it obviously he made it sound like you can't. He didn't want to make signings in January. So is it because the club are going to assess things at the end of the season around him and the progression of the club?
Specifically, he was asked, with regard to the window, he was asked about PSR and the effect PSR was going to have. And he said that he was asked, assuming that PSR wasn't an issue, and in the light of the Isaac money, that's a possibility, what would be his big wish? In other words, if he could make a marquee signing, which he then waffled on and said, what's a marquee signing?
Yeah.
But he said, if you could, what would it be? And he said everything will be decided based upon injuries. He says, obviously, if with us being so weak in defence at the minute due to injuries, it very much depends on what sort of progress those injured players make into coming back to fitness as to what we might need in the window. But that was what
I think a lot of will kind of admit that no matter January or the summer, we're going to have to sign at least 2 or 3 defenders in regards to the age of the backup defenders we've got. Trips has proved, obviously, I think this is his last season.
Yeah.
Shaw or Byrne, you'd be looking hopefully to replace one of them. Keep probably Byrne. Let Byrne's local lad. He can be a squad player next season. In regards to Shaw probably this is his last season. Kraft you'd think will be gone, and Lascelles you would think would be gone. So we do need to look at defenders, and I don't see the difference between starting to try to sign them now or sign them in January. If Eddie's the guy choosing with the director of football, then start to make some of the younger signings now if that's what we need, and it gives us the backup for this season. And it also means that we're preempting the fact that we know we need to buy them next season anyway.
Yep. I just think I would have followed that question up with, well, okay, we agree we're going to need defensive cover. But as you've just said, this is me talking to Eddie, as you've just said, if you
Yeah.
look at our XG, we're second top of the league. What are you going to do in the transfer window to turn those XGs into goals in terms of creative midfielder, perhaps, new winger, perhaps, new striker, which to me is where we need, albeit that we haven't kept a clean sheet. There's reasons for that in terms of injuries and things. But by and large, we're pretty good at defending, as we showed when we had the full complement at the start of the season, clean sheet after clean sheet. But we are lacking, for me, in finishing the job off. Now, okay, that's going to improve because we've got Wissa back. But, we definitely need another striker.
Oh, if especially if we do if Sula does end up either going out alone or getting sold, that's then a priority as well. I think that's probably one of the reasons why he won't be. I think he'll be integrated back into the squad because it's the hardest position to buy a player forward is striker. We found that in the summer, didn't we? I think we struggled in a lot of positions, but the hardest one is to get a striker in. So I think he'll probably stay at least until the summer. But if that is the case, then you're not going to get another striker in because we haven't got. If Eddie's not going to change from what he said in that press conference, he's not going to change the style of play he plays. So you're only going to ever have enough space for three strikers in the squad because a fourth just sits around doing absolutely nothing because there's no chance they'll ever play together. And it doesn't even sound like he particularly wants to do it from the bench, from what he said. He wants by the sounds of it, he wants either the Waltemora or Wissa on the bench, one of them, and the other one on the pitch, and then interchange them. Because from that conference, he doesn't want the plan B.
You got your question asked. I didn't get mine asked. Why not play them both together? He was asked about, because we're all going about the 9 games in January, but somebody else said there's 12 games in the next 37 days and 19 games in the next 60 days. So he was asked about players' exhaustion, and he replied to that players love to play. That it's obviously something you've got to look at, but players love to play. They'd rather be playing than training, more or less. So it's just part and parcel of the game today.
And to be fair, you'd rather be in this position where we'd done well last season and we're still in every cup this season, rather than being knocked out of the cups by then and we're not playing that many games. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say is when he's talking about players wanting to play, what he is going to have to do over this period is use his squad. He cannot rely on the same players week in, week out, because we've seen the injuries we've had so far off doing that. He needs to rotate, and I know he's got no options in defence, but he's got no excuses now in attack, on the wings, in midfield, to get them lads rotating around. The other thing I didn't like as well was when he referred to Miley as a defender, because he says we've got 4 fit defenders and I'm including Miley in that. Miley isn't a defender, and I think he needs. I think we need to step back from that and say, look, he's doing a job at the minute, but that lad's a central midfielder and we want to develop him in that role. We don't want him to be a fill-in or to start trying to make him a right back.
No, I think what he was saying there, though, was we've got 4 fit defenders, and I'm including Miley in that. The reason he said I'm including Miley in that was because he acknowledges that he isn't actually a defender, but he's saying that, that's where we are right now. We've got no alternatives.
But let's not push that forward and say Miley's the answer to the right back cover.
No.
He's not. We need to make signings there.
Yeah, I agree with that. He was asked about Tonali and he was saying how, transformative Tonali coming into the team last season was at this time, and how he transformed it. And he said he was absolutely magnificent. But he's saying he hasn't quite hit those levels this year, and consistency again, as with the whole team, consistency is the problem. He said he's had moments in games, periods in games, but not consistently high level the way he was the whole of last season, really.
I think I'd rather he'd said that was that the midfield hadn't been consistent this season. So the journalist obviously was doing his job trying to pinpoint it on one player, but Eddie could quite say, because Bruno hasn't been consistent this season, J7 hasn't been consistent this season, and Tonali hasn't been consistent this season. All three of them are, last season we were saying this is potentially the best midfield in the Premier League. I don't think we can say that.
But it wasn't just us saying that. A lot of people were saying that.
Loads of people were saying that. I don't think we can say that this season. So I think rather than put it on one player, I think we have to say that those three haven't been great this season, and there is improvement to be made there.
Yeah, I think you're right. He maybe could have deflected it that way, but I think with specifically being asked about Tonali, he brought up how well he's been doing. So I don't think that was any like bad mouthing Tonali.
No, he wasn't calling out, but I'm just saying that I think rather than saying Eddie should have said it, then what I should have said was that I would personally say that we should have called out the whole midfield, not just one individual player.
Yeah. Except his drop off, especially in the last month, has been so noticeable, which I think is probably why the question was asked in the first place. Maybe even giving Eddie an opportunity to say, well, he's just had a baby, da-di-da-di-da, there are reasons for it. He was asked about Pope coming back in against Burnley, and what a difference he made with the two big saves he made in the second half. And he said, we're missing, Pope. He says we've got trips on the way back. Obviously, Dan Burn isn't, but we miss the leadership of the Popes, the Svens, the Trips, and the Burns at the back. A lot of experience missing from the team, is what he said.
I just hope he doesn't use that as an excuse to give them new contracts. Tell you one thing he did say, Will, was pressure levels have been good this season. He's been impressed with which I kind of agree with in some games.
Pressure levels.
Pressure levels. So like our pressure on like the games, our pressure pushing on games have been good, especially at home, which I kind of agree with. But I do think we'll drop off at times. I think that was another follow-up question they could ask. They could have said, well, pressure's been good, but we'll drop off at times. Why does that happen?
And why does it happen? Again, I am, I keep arguing the toss with various people about this one, that I do not believe for 1 second that it's Eddie Howe making a conscious decision to say, right, we're 2 goals up, sit back now. It defies logic, that for me. And it's...
The only counter argument is, why isn't he on the sideline going absolutely nuts at the players if they are doing that? So, there's obviously something there. And you do have moments in games where you've got to get your breath back, so you have to have the little 4 or 5 minutes where you get it. But ours seem to just be, we'll go for 20 minutes, then stop for 20 minutes, and then second half comes, we'll go again, and then stop again. It's obviously something there that either the players have got a mindset of, or it's being installed by the coach and staff. It's a strange one.
Brody up in Edinburgh saying Lewis Miley must be allowed to move back in midfield as soon as possible. I'm sure he will be.
100%, mate.
I'm sure he will be. What's that one? A gilly face. If we are not careful, players will leave. Well, the bottom line is, if we don't get Champions League again, there's going to be a raft of players, I think. Some of them will not be sad to see go, but never mind. Alanga needs replacing. Yeah, like I say, in the transfer window, I'd be going all out to get another winger in, because what we've got simply isn't good enough at the minute, and I'm including Gordon in that.
I think we need a left-footer win. I think we need a left-footed winner. It still brangles me that he's brought three in that are all right-footed. And I know it's harder to get a left-footer, but surely you want a left-footed winger on the pitch at some points.
Where do you stand on that with Sterling being available on loan?
I'd rather I got Grealish, if I'm honest, rather than Sterling. I don't think Sterling's the answer, to be honest. I think he's a big name, but I think we've had. If you look, whenever in the past you sign big names like that, you go out. I mean, look at when we signed Clivert. We've signed big names in the past, and they just don't work for. They just, they own, I suppose, to a point. They just the names. They're not players that are going to necessarily work at this club.
Again,
I know we both kind of agree that Owen got a bad rub with the green here, but what I'm saying is, don't go out and spend a fortune on massive wages on a big name that's kind of past the best.
I don't think there's any chance of us paying these massive wages.
No.
You'd either have to take a cut, or Chelsea would have to pay the vast majority.
But we have done it in the past where Sol Campbell's another one. People come up, John Barnes, Ian Rush. You can keep going. Stuart Pearce. We've given them the big payoff days. So I think Sterling would be best off if I'm honest, going abroad, probably going over to Saudi and finishing his days over there playing.
Yeah. What else have we got? Langer, Botman, both close. How on the home games coming up, and any home game for us is a positive. We've been really good at home for a long time. We prepare to play there, and the more we can minimise travel in a hectic schedule, the better it is for us. January will be season defining, and it needs to be a fruitful one. Indeed it does. I think that's more or less everything.
That covered a lot of it. I think that covered most of it, Wayne, yeah, definitely.
That we've missed. So,
very little questions on the actual next game.
Aye, Crystal Palace. Well, to be fair, he was asked about their form.
He has injuries
and
Glasner,
yeah. and he said highly respected, and he's done a great job there, which I don't think anybody.
I hope the press conference keep going like this in 2026, because that was the media press are never going to ask him the tough questions, but the written press actually went in with a few questions that made him squirm in his seat a little bit. Yeah. So it was good to see.
Like I said, I would just like them to have been Lee Ryder when he was on about the onslaught, and as I say, for me, he was on about the onslaught from online fans. In terms of the plan B, I would like him to have kept that a bit longer. To say, no, we're not talking about specifically a Burnley onslaught. We're talking about lack of plan B generally. But I suppose he did answer that in a way when he said if you need a plan B, plan A obviously isn't working. So.
But yeah, again, I think anybody in life, if you're doing something and plan A isn't working, you have to have a plan B. So you if I'm trying to think of an example and I can't think of one apart from marriage, so I'll use that one. if you're not happy in your marriage, sort of, yeah, you can just keep going and get it going with it, or you can get out, have the plan B, you're getting out and going somewhere where you are happy. So, you know, you've got to have plan Bs in life, and that was the one standout point that he made to me, was that he doesn't have a plan B, and that is a worry.
Too nuts in. I can't stand Elanga. He's never going to be good enough. He's by far the worst signing Eddie has made. Well, all I would say about that is we saw at Forest what he's capable of. Can he get that form back? But if he could, he'd be worth every penny of the 55 or whatever we paid for him. It's a big if, though. I would have given Elanga more grace if he had basic ball skills. He doesn't have ball control. Too many Phil D. Too many players out of form. This is the crucial period of our season now, on and off the pitch. Yeah, and this is the thing, you know. Everybody points the finger at Eddie, and it's the old adage. If a couple of players are playing badly, out of form, it's down to the players. But if everybody's playing bad, then it's down to the manager. And there's obviously a lot of truth in that. And it seems to me that every game you watch, there's players making individual errors. You know, we've commented on it a million times. Inability to pass a ball 5 or 10 yards to a black and white shirt. And that's not down to management. That's down to the players.
But it's also down to style of play, which is up to the manager. So if you see that happening on the bench and you see that we're doing that, change the style a little bit. And as Eddie says, he won't do that because he sticks to his plan A. So, you know, if you see that it's not working, sometimes just, as Roy would say, hoof it forward.
Well,
you know,
I must admit, I don't
forward.
I don't think we're direct enough at times.
No. So, you know, yes, the players, some players are out of form. You can see that quite blatantly when you're watching the game. Tonali, Bruno to certain degrees. Just Linton hasn't been great. Gordon's gone off the boil. You know, sort of, we have got players that aren't playing great. But if you're sitting on the bench watching that, then sometimes just go a little bit more direct, go a little bit more sort of, you know, we can't pass it between. We're losing the ball all the time. Just whack the ball forward and hope for the best at times a little bit. And I know it's the old
That's
style,
exactly
but
what it is.
Yeah.
Hope for the best. Anyway, folks, that's everything that Eddie's had to say this morning. Hit the notifications and you'll get to know when we're on next. There's nothing this afternoon, but we might be doing a party night tonight. So come just for a fun evening in the new year. And I think that's everything. So it's goodbye from
whack
me.
the lights on the way out. Whack
Yeah.
the lights on the way out.
Yes, please. Everyone counts. Every little helps, as Tesco would say. So it's a goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
And it's Howe the lads.
Lasses and bairns.
And we're out of here.